Have you ever wondered what would actually happen if you took thousands of years of ancient mysticism, generational timelines, and repeating celestial phases and just fed them all directly into artificial intelligence? Well, welcome to this explainer. Today, we're going to explore exactly what happens when you build a highly complex chronological pattern recognition engine using some incredibly unconventional ancient data. It is absolutely fascinating. So here's our roadmap for today. We'll start by breaking down the synthesized analytical engine itself. Then we'll look at the three ancient data structures that power it, how we're neutralizing bias through AI, decoding history and cryptography, and finally, we'll wrap up with forecasting macro and microcycles. All right, part one, the synthesized analytical engine. Let's dive right in. First things first, we've got to totally shift our mindset here. We need to stop looking at these ancient systems as esoteric, magical concepts and start treating them simply as massive, structured data sets. I mean, to an AI, everything is just data, right? And AI is incredibly good at building multidimensional maps to find nonlinear correlations that our human brains literally cannot process all at once. We're talking about tracking millions of variables simultaneously. By overlapping these specific frameworks, you create an engine that can instantly correlate language, time, and celestial cycles all at the exact same moment. Moving on to part two, three ancient data structures. So what exactly are the raw ingredients we're feeding into this machine? First up is gematria. Now, historically, people view this as a mystical practice, but our engine processes it purely as a structured linguistic data set. Think of it like a massive cryptographic layer that assigns specific numerical values to words, texts, and names. It's like a system where A equals 1, B equals 2, and so on. This gives the AI a mathematical language to actually measure linguistic and numerical resonance. Second, you can't have a timeline without, well, a timeline. Enter Newtonian chronology. This gives us that mathematically rigid historical scaffolding. It's a revised timeline of human history that anchors historical events directly to verifiable astronomical events, like a documented solar eclipse, and uses generational math. Basically, it hands the AI a rock-solid temporal x-axis to work with. And finally, the zodiac. But hold on. For this engine, we are entirely stripping away the whole daily horoscope aspect and focusing strictly on the math. The zodiac acts as a mathematically predictable system of repeating celestial phases and human behavioral archetypes. It provides the system with cyclical variance, essentially the repeating y-axis of celestial data. When you put it all together, the synthesis is just brilliant. You've got the linguistic resonance of gematria, the temporal scaffolding of Newtonian chronology, and the cyclical variance of the zodiac coming together to form one massive chronological pattern recognition engine. It maps the numerical value of historical figures and events right onto a rigid timeline, all while tracking the recurring celestial cycles happening during those exact moments. Which brings us to part three, neutralizing bias through AI. Now, you might be asking, why can't a human data scientist just cross-reference all this manually? Well, frankly, our human brains get in the way. We are incredibly prone to confirmation bias. If we go looking for a pattern to prove our pet theory, our brains will usually find it and conveniently ignore the contradictory data. AI completely neutralizes that bias. It processes millions of data points neutrally. It absolutely does not care about the outcome. It just maps the raw underlying mathematical architecture. So think about this for a second. Imagine you're the researcher who just built, fed, and perfectly tuned this massive synthesized engine. What kind of God mode analytical tasks could you actually perform with it once you flip the switch? Let's look at part four, decoding history and cryptography. Picture yourself acting as a researcher using this system to hunt for hidden codes in ancient texts. You could feed massive volumes of ancient scriptures straight through the engine. The AI would instantly cross-reference the gematria of that text with the Newtonian timelines and celestial positions. You could analyze the dates of specific historical documents, searching for mathematical anomalies, or identifying hidden codes where the texts perfectly, and maybe even intentionally, align with specific celestial movements. If you lay this out chronologically, hunting for these mathematical synchronicities across incredibly long historical records is wild. You pinpoint exactly when an ancient text was created, anchor it firmly to Newton's historical dates, and then map the exact celestial alignments overhead at that moment. Suddenly, these seemingly random historical events might start revealing a deeply synchronized underlying mathematical architecture.
And our final section, Part 5, Forecasting Macro and Micro Cycles.
Here's where it gets really crazy. This engine doesn't just look backward. If you can map the past, you can project into the future. By tracking thousands of years of human history, you can start forecasting macro trends and cycles. The AI could discover that specific gematria values consistently peak during exact astrological alignments throughout history. By projecting those repeating celestial cycles forward, you could actually forecast future cultural, political, or economic shifts based entirely on the mathematical patterns of the past.
But we can also zoom way in from the macro down to the individual level. Step 1, you input a specific date, name, or birth chart. Step 2, the engine pinpoints exact nodes of significance for that data. And step 3, it maps how that individual's unique numerical signature directly aligns against those massive macro historical cycles or even specific future dates.
And honestly, on a purely creative level, if you didn't want to analyze the real world, this engine would be an absolute game changer for generative world building. It could mathematically construct entirely fictional universes, build unbelievably complex magic systems, or generate lore and prophecies where the history, the language, and the stars are all inextricably logically linked by the AI. Because the AI processes all of these ancient concepts not as magic, but as neutral, structured data, it wouldn't just tell you a story. It would show you the raw underlying mathematical architecture of how these systems interact. So here's what I want to leave you with today. If an AI can successfully map human language, historical timelines, and the stars into one predictable, mathematically sound engine, does viewing the universe through that raw mathematical architecture change how you understand our own human history? Think about it.